I'm very happy to be participating in this comment on the work Divrei Halev that my friend and colleague Rabbi Ronald Price put together as a basis of, based on his conversations with Hagaon Harav Professor David Weiss Halivni. Rabbi Price is to be congratulated for the way that he put this book together, and it brings back the voice of Moreno Rabbeinu that whom I knew for over 50 years, and there was not a time that I was in his company, even if it was for 5 minutes, that I didn't learn something significant. So it is, the Gemara says that the tzaddikim are alive even when they're physically dead. Now, what I want to zero in on in Parshat Bo is his discussion of the plague of Choshech, and his especially where he quotes Exodus chapter 10, verse 23, Lo ra'u ish et achiv, that no person saw his fellow human being. And he writes here, the Egyptians perceived only their own individual concerns and are oblivious to each other's needs. This was part of the plague of Choshech. And then he points out that that Jewish law is clear when one is in dire straits. Chayecha kodmin l'chayech haveirach. He's referring to the famous Gemara in Bava Messiah 62a. It's also in the Sifra on Leviticus, that two people that were in a desert and they only had a flask of water between them, and if they both drank from it, they would both die. But if the one who the flask was in his hand would drink from it, there was a chance, a good chance that he would survive. And Chayecha Komim L'Chayecha Berach, the famous drasha of Rabbi Akiva. But there, Professor Halivni points out the rule, however, does not apply here. The mitzvah of lo tamod al dam re'echa, you should not stand idly by when your neighbor's life is in danger, applies even if one is swimming for land to keep from drowning. To the extent that one can help save someone else, must do so. The plague of Choshech in the case of the Egyptians was bleakness so deep that they lost all sensitivity to others. There are, Rav Halivni always liked precise citations, but this, the Rambam in Hilchot Rotzeach, chapter 1, halacha 14, and the Radbaz in his Chuvot, section 5, number 1382, discuss to what extent a person should risk his or her own life in saving somebody else. And as Rabbi Halivni points out here, that if you can save somebody else's life without your own sure death, even exposing yourself to danger, that is to be done. I want to relate a story that pertains to Rav Halivni's life. Rav Halivni, as we all know, went through the Holocaust, went through the worst of it in Auschwitz, And even after Auschwitz, the notorious Death March, where survivors in Auschwitz were made by the Nazis to march to the Mauthausen concentration camp so that they wouldn't be left in Auschwitz as witnesses as the Russians were approaching of their crimes. And Rav Halivni was not only in Auschwitz, but he was on the death march. Uh, Here in Toronto, I have a very good friend whose parents were survivors, and her mother who's still alive over the age of 100, was in Auschwitz and on the death march. And when my friend son, a number of years ago, became bar mitzvah, they had a party in their home, and I came to their house, and I saw an old woman sitting in the corner, and that was Mrs. Kurlander, who'd been a member of my congregation in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, which I left to go to a larger pulpit in 1972. And I know that she was a survivor of Auschwitz and on the death march to Mauthausen. What I didn't know is what she told me, that she was at the bar mitzvah. She specially wanted to be there because of her friend, Mrs. Landau, who was the mother of my friend, who was as she put it, Lagerschwester, a camp sister, because on the march to Mauthausen, Mrs. Landau shared with Mrs. Kurlander her bowl of soup. And somebody else would normally want the soup for themselves. She shared the bowl of soup, and they both miraculously survived. The Rishalmi at the end of the eighth chapter of Trumot talks about Mishnat Hasidim, those who risk their lives to save others. And that story illustrates the point that Rav Halivni mentioned here in his remarks on Parsha Bo. I wonder if, when he related this to Rabbi Price, he wasn't thinking of those who shared their bowl of soup on the death march of which he was part and was miraculously saved from. Uh, his life is the best commentary on the texts he knew so well.